The last time you bought a concert ticket, you probably paid somewhere around $70 for the seat and then watched the total climb past $100 before you hit confirm. A convenience fee, a service fee, a facility charge, an order processing fee. These are not random markups. They are the engine of a business model that has been running virtually unchanged for over 40 years through 2 Department of Justice investigations, a congressional hearing, a public war with one of the biggest rock bands in history, and a merger that handed one company control over the venues, the concerts, and the tickets all at once. On March 9th, 2026, the Department of Justice settled its antitrust case against Live Nation and Ticketmaster. The company won't be broken up. 27 states, including New York and California, rejected the deal and are continuing their lawsuits independently. But the federal government, the only entity with the authority to actually force a separation, just walked away from the table. So how did a ticketing company that started in a college dorm in Arizona end up so deeply embedded in the live music industry that even the United States government could not pry it loose? The answer goes back to a single decision made in 1982, a decision that flipped the economics of concert tickets upside down and created a loyalty loop so airtight that every attempt to break it, from Pearl Jam to the Department of Justice, has only made the company stronger. Ticketmaster was founded in 1976 by 2 Arizona State University staffers, Albert Leffler and Peter Gadwa, along with businessman Gordon Gunn. Leffler had seen a brochure for Ticketron, the dominant computerized ticketing company at the time, and thought they could build something better. Gadwa wrote the software, Gunn helped raise the money, and within a few months, they had a working prototype that they demonstrated at the International Association of Auditorium Managers trade show. A handful of venues signed up. The company sold its first concert tickets in 1977, an electric light orchestra show at the University of New Mexico. By 1978, they had signed their first international client in Oslo, Norway. But in the United States, they were still a rounding error compared to Ticketron. Ticketron had been the market leader since the late 60s. It had exclusive relationships with major arenas across the country and a simple business model. Venues paid Ticketron a fee to use its ticketing system. The technology was aging, the service was not great, but the contracts were in place, and inertia was powerful. There was no obvious reason for any venue to take a risk on a startup from Arizona. Then in 1982, a Chicago investor named Jay Pritzker, the family behind the Hyatt Hotels chain, bought Ticketmaster for roughly $4 million and installed a corporate attorney named Fred Rosen as the new chief executive. Rosen had no background in entertainment. He had spent the previous decade running a small law firm in New York, doing corporate and securities work. But he understood something that Ticketron's leadership apparently did not. Rosen looked at the economics of live events and noticed a pattern. The food concession companies paid the venue for the right to sell hot dogs and beer. The parking concession companies paid the venue for the right to operate the lot. Every concessionaire in the building was paying the building for access to its audience. Everyone except the ticketing company, which was actually charging the building for the privilege of selling its own seats. Rosen thought that was absurd, so he flipped the model. Instead of billing venues to use Ticketmaster's system, he offered to pay them. Here's how it worked. Ticketmaster would add a service charge to every ticket sold, $1, $25 to $2.50 on top of the face price. Ticketmaster kept a portion and split the rest with the venue and the promoter. The venue got free ticketing equipment installed in its box office, free staff training on the new system, and a revenue stream from service fees that it had never seen a dime of before. In exchange, Ticketmaster got one thing: an exclusive contract, 3 to 5 years minimum. Every ticket, every event, every seat in the building, all sold through Ticketmaster. Rosen was ruthless about the terms. He told venues that if he did not get all, he did not want any. No partial allocations, no 1-year trial periods, no sharing tickets with competing services, full exclusivity or nothing. When venues pushed back, he would walk away and wait. He said later, "If you cannot leave the table, you cannot sit at it." And because no other ticketing company was offering to pay venues instead of billing them, the pitch was almost impossible to turn down. Ticketmaster's first big win was the Forum in Los Angeles. whose contract with Ticketron was expiring in the fall of 1982. Once the forum signed, it opened up the rest of the country. One exclusive venue made the next easier to land, because promoters wanted their artists playing wherever the best ticketing infrastructure already existed. The structural elegance of this model, and the reason it locked in so fast, was that the person absorbing the cost was invisible to the negotiation. The fan paid the service charge. The venue received a cut of it. Ticketmaster sat in the middle, collecting its share while building an exclusive network that competitors could not access. Every new contract added another venue to the network, which made the network more valuable, which made the next venue more likely to sign. This was not a competitive advantage that could be outmarketed or out-innovated. It was a system where the switching cost increased every year the venue stayed in. By the end of the 80s, Ticketmaster's annual revenue had climbed from roughly $1 million to $80 million. The company had 850 outlets across 37 states and 650 phone agents taking orders. Ticketron, still charging venues for the privilege of using an aging system, was hemorrhaging clients. In 1991, Ticketmaster bought what was left of Ticketron's assets and effectively erased its only national competitor from existence. The Department of Justice approved the acquisition. By 1994, Ticketmaster was selling 52 million tickets a year and pulling in around $200 million in revenue. Fred Rosen told the New York Times that his critics were fueled by jealousy and envy. And then the biggest rock band in America decided to pick a fight. In the spring of 1994, Pearl Jam, coming off a debut album that would eventually go 13 times platinum and a follow-up that sold nearly 1 million copies in its first week, tried to organize a summer tour with ticket prices capped at $18.50 total. They asked Ticketmaster to limit its service fee to $1.80 per ticket. Ticketmaster refused. Fred Rosen's response was characteristically blunt. If Pearl Jam wants to play for free, we'll be happy to distribute their tickets for free. So Pearl Jam tried to go around them. They searched for venues that didn't have Ticketmaster contracts. They couldn't find enough. The exclusive agreements had locked up so many major arenas and amphitheaters that America's best-selling rock band couldn't piece together a viable national tour in its own country. They ended up booking shows at fairgrounds, soccer fields, and state parks in places like Casper, Wyoming, and Las Cruces, New Mexico, selling tickets through a tiny alternative company called ETM Entertainment. Rain canceled one date at the Wolf Mountain Amphitheater. Eddie Vedder was hospitalized with food poisoning at another. The logistics of running your own ticketing operation without Ticketmaster's infrastructure, handling security, processing orders, managing crowds at unfamiliar outdoor spaces, nearly broke the band. They eventually pulled the plug, losing close to $3 million. Their drummer was fired over disagreements about whether the crusade was worth it. Pearl Jam's guitarist, Stone Gossard, and bassist, Jeff Ament, testified before a congressional subcommittee on June 30, 1994. Gossard told the panel, "All the members of Pearl Jam remember what it's like to be young and not have a lot of money." They laid out the exclusive contracts, the fee-splitting arrangements, the impossibility of reaching fans without going through Ticketmaster's network. The Department of Justice opened a formal investigation. Other artists, R.E.M., Aerosmith, Neil Young, Garth Brooks, The Grateful Dead, expressed support. Behind the scenes, the North American Concert Promoters Association faxed its members advising them not to cooperate with Pearl Jam's proposed pricing structure, warning that Ticketmaster viewed it as an all-or-nothing proposition. Then, on July 5, 1995, a Saturday with Congress away on Independence Day recess, the Justice Department issued a 2-sentence press release announcing that the investigation was closed. No charges, no conditions, no action of any kind. A Ticketmaster spokesperson called it vindication. Pearl Jam went back to using Ticketmaster. Every band did. There was nowhere else to go. If you find this interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. We cover the kind of details most people walk past without noticing. Enjoy. What made Ticketmaster's position so durable wasn't just the exclusive contracts themselves. It was the economic dependency those contracts created inside the venues. Every arena, every amphitheater, every concert hall that signed with Ticketmaster venues were now receiving a steady revenue stream from service fees, money that came directly from fans, flowed through Ticketmaster, and landed in the venue's operating budget. Switching to a competitor didn't just mean swapping out software. It meant giving up income that the venue had been counting on for years. And the longer a venue stayed, the more its financial planning depended on that fee-sharing arrangement. Ticketmaster had stopped being a vendor. It was a revenue partner embedded in the venue's budget line. And you don't fire your revenue partner because a rock band asks you to. By the time Fred Rosen left the company in 1998, annual ticket sales had reached nearly $2.5 billion, up from $1 million when he took over 16 years earlier. The service fee model he'd built was now the industry standard. No serious competitor had emerged, and Ticketmaster's exclusive contracts, typically running 3 to 5 years with built-in renewal clauses, created a rolling wall that new entrants couldn't get past. By the mid-2000s, Ticketmaster was handling over 140 million tickets a year and controlling roughly 70% of the primary ticketing market for major concert venues. But the real transformation came in 2010, when Ticketmaster merged with Live Nation, the largest concert promoter in the world. Live Nation wasn't just a promoter, it was a venue owner, an artist manager, and a festival operator. At the time of the merger, it already controlled dozens of amphitheaters and concert halls. The Department of Justice approved the deal with a consent decree, a set of conditions designed to preserve competition. Live Nation had to allow competing ticketing platforms access to its venues. It couldn't retaliate against venues that chose to work with rivals. By 2025, Live Nation operated or had exclusive booking rights to more than 400 venues worldwide. It hosted over 159 million fans across its concerts. The company posted $25 billion in annual revenue, up 9% from the year before. Its concert division alone generated $20.9 billion. Its Ticketmaster subsidiary pulled in $3.1 billion. The company invested nearly $15 billion in artists and shows in a single year. The merger created something the live music industry had never seen: a single company that promotes the tour, books the venue, sells the ticket, and collects the fee at every step. If you're an artist, Live Nation offers to handle everything: management, promotion, ticketing, merchandise. If you're a venue, Live Nation's booking agreements come with the understanding that Ticketmaster handles ticket sales. And if you're a fan, you open an app, see a concert, and buy a ticket. You've never consciously chosen Ticketmaster, but there's no step in the process where an alternative naturally appears. In 2019, the Department of Justice found that Live Nation had been violating the consent decree, pressuring venues to sign with Ticketmaster or risk losing access to Live Nation promoted shows. The penalty was an extension of the decree by 5.5 years. Live Nation kept growing. Then came November 15th, 2022. Taylor Swift's Eras tour pre-sale went live on Ticketmaster. Over 2 million tickets sold on the first day, and then the platform collapsed under what the company called historically unprecedented demand. Millions of verified fans were locked out. Prices on the secondary resale market, a market Live Nation also participates in, surged into the thousands of dollars. Swift called the experience excruciating. Even sitting United States senators could not get tickets for their own families. Congress held another hearing. Senators from both parties grilled Ticketmaster's chief financial officer. The scrutiny was bipartisan, the public anger was real, and for the first time in decades, there was genuine political momentum behind breaking up the company. In May of 2024, the Department of Justice filed a sweeping antitrust lawsuit, joined by over 35 states and the District of Columbia. Attorney General Merrick Garland stood at a podium and said, "The government alleges that Live Nation has illegally monopolized markets across the live concert industry for far too long, and that it is time to break it up." The Federal Trade Commission separately estimated that Ticketmaster controlled roughly 80% of primary ticketing at major concert venues. The trial opened last week in Manhattan, and today the government settled. Live Nation will pay up to $280 million, divest exclusive booking rights at 13 amphitheaters, and allow some venues to use competing ticketing platforms alongside Ticketmaster. But Ticketmaster stays. The vertical integration of promotion, venues, and ticketing under one roof remains intact. New York's Attorney General called the settlement a failure. California said it does not go far enough. A former senior Department of Justice official told the press, that settling this particular case sends the clearest possible message that federal antitrust enforcement is effectively finished. The pattern here is 40 years old, and it has never once been interrupted. In 1982, Fred Rosen figured out that if you pay the gatekeeper instead of charging them, the gatekeeper will hand you the keys and stop shopping for alternatives. Every venue that signed an exclusive contract became a node in a distribution network that competitors could not reach. Every service fee split made that contract harder to walk away from, and every new venue made the remaining holdouts more isolated, because artists need to play where the tickets sell, and the tickets sell where Ticketmaster already is. The merger with Live Nation in 2010 did not create this dynamic, it sealed the exits. Now the company that sells the ticket also books the artist, promotes the show, and owns the building. There is no seam in the chain where a competitor can insert itself. Pearl Jam proved that in 1994 when they could not find enough non-Ticketmaster venues to fill a national tour. Taylor Swift proved it again in 2022 when her own promoter admitted it could not use its own ticketing platform because too many stadiums were locked into Ticketmaster contracts. And the settlement announced today proves it one more time, because even when the federal government calls it an illegal monopoly, the infrastructure is so deeply woven into the financial architecture of every major venue in the country that unwinding it would mean rebuilding an industry from the foundation up. The next time you buy a concert ticket and watch that total climb, the convenience fee, the service charge, the facility fee, the order processing fee, those charges are not random. They are the price of a 40-year-old handshake between a ticketing company and a venue, renewed thousands of times over, in which you were never a party to the deal, but you have always been the one paying for it. If you enjoyed this deep dive and would like to see more, please leave your ideas in the comments below.